She excused herself, entering her cabin number 94, bumping both her suitcases on just about everything she could bump them on. "Good morning," she said, feeling both sets of eyes belonging to the Scazzo sisters piercing through her. "Could you tell me which one of the empty bunks I might be allowed to occupy?" she asked. Her voice faint, but not from exertion. Rather, it had been the wall of animosity she had crashed up against that took the vibrancy out of it somewhat. "Top and bottom," answered the older of the two, pointing her half-empty glass in her hand through her bare feet dangling over the edge of the bunk. Lydia let her things fall on the bottom mattress, the horsehair inside it barely giving way under the thud it produced. She straightened herself to face the two women and said, "My name is Lydia," simply and openly. "I'm traveling to Buenos Aires." "I'm Benedetta, and that there is my sister Domenica," the older one said, half suppressing a yawn. Her tone not sharp, but nowhere near amicable either. "We're not going that far," she added. "We'll be out of your hair as soon as we get to Madeira. Just a few days, dear." "It will not be a problem," Lydia replied, still testing the waters on whether the woman's brutish tone had indeed been intentional, or that she was flat-footed in other ways as well. But it was her sister Domenica, sitting on the opposite bunk, who spoke. "We hope we will not inconvenience you, miss," the sarcasm there well exceeding sharp, landing somewhere near downright hostile. And it left Lydia wondering if the stench of liquor in the cabin might have something to do with it. Barely rousing the air around her, Lydia turned to search the younger woman's face. All the while, the wheat and June color of her eyes dancing with astonished contempt, and replied, "I'm sure you will do just fine, Domenica, just fine," taking her time to let her words suck the air right out of the narrow enclosure that was to be home for the next 6 weeks. "What's in Buenos Aires?" Benedetta then asked, not so much out of curiosity as in an attempt to divert the bullets away from her sister. But Lydia took her time to disengage her eyes from Domenica before she turned, letting it be clear that even if it was to be for only 3 days that their lives would be entangled, she still required good manners, no matter who they were or how drunk. "I'm not sure yet," she answered. "Work, I hope. What's in Madeira?" "Oh, not very much, really," Benedetta answered somewhat hesitantly, probably wondering why, whenever she drank too much, the words that formed so eloquently inside her head almost never came out of her mouth, actually sounding that way. "We are going there to visit our brother," she said. "He owns an orchid farm right outside of Funchal. We plan to stay 6 months, if he doesn't ship us off by then." "Work?" Now, the question sprang too naturally to Lydia's lips, so much so that it needed no verb, so much of a sentence around it for it to seem like the fairest assumption as to why two young women might want to travel to a place like Madeira in the first place. But still the sisters doubled up laughing, lifted both into the hilarity of it all before Lydia had fully understood. From the elegant tang of their perfume and the fine quality of their gowns, that traveling second class had probably not been part of their initial plan. She turned away and pretended to fumble around with her luggage, embarrassed suddenly, as she had been raised to be, about her own small-town background. She caught herself wanting to be invisible again, as she always had before, whenever she had been confronted by the frivolity of city people and their careless and unintended cruelties. But it angered her foremost that embarrassing herself like that had made her think of her parents, and how their unsophisticated ways had taught her through the whip of shame to begrudge those whose definition of earning a living did not actually involve breaking a sweat. But she quickly remembered that this was the very reason she had boarded the Ostia Antica in the first place, to rid herself of precisely that, having to make excuses for who and what she was.